Oh boy, have we got an interesting, very compelling topic for you today. You see, over on TikTok, we released a bit of an innocent video, and out of nowhere, it popped off pretty hard. Okay, 50,000 views isn't a lot, but for a small channel like ours, 50,000 is a lot because it's 25 times that of our normal audience. So, yeah. If you're new around here, my name is Nick Lanza. This is Car Rant. This is our channel. We talk about a lot of different topics and discussion points here, in addition to our own builds and reviews. If that sounds interesting to you, please consider subbing. And if you're coming from TikTok, let me know down below and tell me what your favorite TikTok video we've made is, because, well, we've made quite a few of them now, and we need to get this guy in more of them. Ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, this is Car Rant. Today, we're talking about Car Town. Now, historically speaking, creating your own town is not an unprecedented move. Obviously, these towns and cities had to come from somewhere, and well, they start off small and grow larger and larger with more infrastructure, business, and etc. coming to that place and settling down. But if you were, say, in one of those old mining towns or agro cities, you may find that your population dwindles down to a very small number and unfortunately becomes a ghost town. These ghost cities are all over the United States, north, south, east, and west, and there's probably plenty of them in Alaska too. Basically, we have cities, towns that are on the map with nothing. There's nobody there. No one's home. They're completely empty, left completely untouched. And it was my opinion that instead of trying to create your own municipality, why not take one that already exists, privatize it, and create your own community inside of it? So why buy a city and privatize it? Why go the route of purchasing the debts of a town and just turning it into our own little compound? The short answer is autonomy. You see, with autonomy, it allows us to control the ebb and flow of the city traffic, what comes in and out, and make our own changes to the road by, well, making them no longer public but private roads. While yes, it means that we ourselves will have to maintain the infrastructure through means of probably taxes, that'll be the easiest way for us to make our roads the way we want them, to help maintain them, to avoid potholes all the time, things of that nature. It'll also give us the ability to shut our roads down for the purposes of, well, car enthusiasm. If we want to have, say, Main Street turned into a drag strip, we can build the roads in such a way where we can still have traffic on either side and have the drag race still go on the middle section. In other words, a 6-lane highway with barriers in between lanes 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And with this type of architecture ingrained into the city's design, we can almost emulate cities like Monaco, where they still do the Formula 1 race on city streets. In fact, a lot of aspects of Car Town are borrowed from real life examples of car enthusiasm working in real life. So we've talked about the roads. Well, what about people living there, right? It's obviously going to be loud if there's a ton of car people living in this town. And short answer is, you're right, it would be very loud. After all, if my car, in my opinion, is a little bit loud, then somebody like a Coyote 5 Mustang is definitely going to be loud. So obviously property value is not going to be great, and it's going to make it actually really easy for car enthusiasts to try to move to this city. But what about people's mental health? Listening and hearing all this noise, this traffic happening around them, how does that affect them? Well, we build it into the building codes. Have the houses X distance from the road, and then build the walls with specific depths of density to make sure that they can help block out noise and control and regulate the sounds coming into the home, will help ensure that these homes are not cacophonously loud. That a family of 4 with one on the way would be able to move in and not be bothered all that much. Obviously, such renovations are going to take a lot of time and money, and the reality is it's not going to be a short process if Car Town were to ever actually happen. But that idea is already there, and we already see that style of infrastructure being used in many cities around the country, to the point where sirens could go off on outside and you don't know that it's happening on the inside. And as far as city planning goes, laying out a city with racetracks and car enthusiasts in mind is not actually going to be all that difficult to plan out, especially if it's an abandoned town. because it means that the town itself is privatized. The owner slash mayor or whatever would be able to level houses, knock down properties, especially if they're derelict or have been sitting for a long time. It would make a lot of sense to take those down because it would cost more to renovate than it would be to just level it and start over. That being said, being able to section off and create districts within the city for specific purposes could very easily be written into the way you lay out your town. Depending on location, you could set it up where there's drifting in one section and the drag strip in another, and then a proper circle track off to this side, and then whatever kind of rally stage on the back end. You would be able to cater to all different types of car enthusiasts just by simply having different sections of the city laid out for specific purposes, and more importantly, setting up your tracks on the farthest reaches of each city. That way, public life in the center doesn't get too heavily hampered with noise, racing traffic, and just people being dumb. So great! We've now talked about how we're going to make the roads private. We've now talked about how we're going to lay out the city, and we've already talked about how we're going to put people in said city. But what about jobs? While many people mention that working from home is an option, in order to make our city livable, our little car town be a viable option for anybody who's trying to live a relatively closer life, we're gonna need to be able to bring in outside vendors, and more importantly, bring in companies that were willing to hire people in the city. After all, it's no secret that the majority of car people are, well, car-minded. So mechanic shops for days, different forms of fabrication and welding, bodywork. There's going to be a lot of automotive stuff available. This can in turn incentivize companies like JEGS, MA Performance, and others to try to say maybe have another shop there, move their home base there, or even buy their own sections of land to test their own products on. In other words, automotive brands would have a safe haven in Cartown. And speaking of automotive brands, well, since we have racetracks built into the city, we could easily permit out days where companies like Nissan and Renault and all these other manufacturers would be able to come and test their cars and create our own version of a testing circuit similar to that of the Nürburgring, which is also kind of another car city if you really think about it. Obviously, getting brands like local grocery stores, Starbucks, other forms of amenities and food really are gonna need people to work there, and we're gonna need bids from those companies to buy lots, move in, understand how our system works and what's legal and not legal in our town. Because again, after all, with us having a car town means that certain things like speeding is not gonna be as heavily patrolled if it's on the correct track. So naturally it means that things like insurance might be a problem for some of these brands, which is why we're gonna need serious tax breaks for some of those companies to move in order to hire, well, everybody else who can't work from home or doesn't have a skill set that allows them to work from home. Plus, come on, side money for days if you can work part-time in a coffee house and then race on the weekends and then work for JEG. Like, come on. To me, sounds like a pretty win-win situation because, well, all your clients are going to be people like you. So you all can speak the same language. It makes life very, very easy when everyone knows how to talk to each other. So now that we've covered, well, some of how businesses are going to work and city planning and track stuff and everything else, well, what else is left? Obviously, money has to come in order to keep this place going. We need ways to keep the lights on. We need ways to have water and power and sewage control and waste management all present in this city, because after all, there's people, and all those things are kind of needed to keep people alive. We'll need hospitals, we'll need banks, we'll need other forms of things that are regulated by higher bodies than just a state or local area, talking about things that are handled by the federal government. And as a result, it means taxes are going to need to happen in order to keep this place running. Unless this city becomes its own little city-state or nation-state, there's really no other way to get around it, that we're going to need taxes in order to keep the city afloat. And I know, before you click off, because I'm saying that three-letter word that no one likes, which is tax, think about it this way. You could have it written into your city's bylaws to basically say that, well, this is where all your money's going. It's going to this, this, and this. Today's budget, we're going over things for fixing the potholes in the road. Tomorrow's budget is reintroducing new barriers or track lighting for the closed off days for whatever X Series event race. In other words, it means that everyone in the city would be more involved with what happens with their town. Obviously, once we get to a certain size, we'll need to have a delegate body and things like that, but that's where stuff like the Constitution of the United States can help guide and direct our development as a town. I propose a very simple 2 to 5% flat tax for the entire population. Yes, it means that our urban development will be slower than, say, other places that have heftier donors, if you will, or higher tax-paying individuals, but it means that everyone has an equal shot, equal share in what goes on with this town. They can affect it by simply just living there. Keep in mind, public works is a very big part of what keeps our own lights on. The fact that you're watching this video, things like that. That all kind of plays into that. With us having a privatized settlement, it means that we have to pay all of that out of pocket and don't get any of that lovely government funding, at least for the most part, unless we have some really good lawyers like Legal Eagle to step in and help us figure this out. And all that said, here we are at the end. I know that this has been kind of a very long and well chaptery video for us, but it highlights some really interesting aspects to this very hypothetical idea. And the short version is we're going to need some serious coin and investors in order to even attempt to start to do this. As one guy commented in our feed, $50 million was what we were going to need in order to buy one small abandoned-ish town. And that's not exactly a small amount of money, even for some of the wealthiest in society. I'm not saying that we need a Bezos or a Musk to move in order for us to create this town or society, but it certainly wouldn't hurt. And while being a private city after said purchase would be kind of a really serious undertaking, as we would need some serious infrastructure jobs to be maintained in order to even have this town work, it honestly could be pretty viable. Because one of the most famous of spontaneous cities that had lovely tax breaks, its own power supply and water supply, and its own constant stream of revenue, is Walt Disney World. Listen, if an animated mouse can do it, I'm pretty sure that a bunch of real car guys and girls and families could come together and make this commune possible. And more importantly, show the world that car enthusiasts aren't all crackheads and stupid. With that said, thank you guys for tuning in for this episode. Tell me down below, would you yourself move to this car town? Does it sound interesting and appealing to you? Or do you want to see some people, try and practice the idea first? I would love to know. Let's have that conversation. And if you're interested and you want to see what some of our builds have been like previously on this channel, check out this video right here. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a Forester video because, we haven't really had a chance to work on anything else. Also, you should really just like and sub because of this handsome devil right here named Merlin. Look at this guy. This man's over here modeling and posing for you right now.